is awesome. You guys, okay, so let's dive in. Let's get started because the Bridge Club is always prompt no matter what. So everyone, welcome to the Bridge Club. This is a topic that I have been wanting to do for a very long time and actually had run in to Royal Canin, and they had told me that at their symposiums, this happens to, if they were to sell tickets, sells out every time that they do it. Oh, there's Diane. And so what is really cool about this is not a lecture. This is not a webinar. There will be no PowerPoints. I want to hear from you. Catherine wants to hear from you. Yes, there are two Catherines.
It's just a little confusing.
Just a smidge. What are you hearing? What are the pet parents saying to you? What is the craziest thing that you've heard? Because this is an opportunity to kind of laugh a little, share it, but also do some real understanding of how some of these myths can be really dangerous to pets. So with that, and for the record, my business partner, my beautiful, beautiful Brenda Andreessen is not here tonight, but because she is at the College World Series, she gets a pass tonight. So it's all on me. So if by chance I missed your question in the group chat, just someone raise your hand or speak up and say, Catherine, you missed me. And so that way, because I'm flying solo on managing it. So it's a team effort. It's a group effort tonight. We're all helping each other out. So with that, it's my pristine honor to be able to introduce Catherine Lenox, who I just met like 3-4 weeks ago or whatever.
Yes.
So excited to have this introduction. She's already my new bestie.
And we have the same name.
Here we are. So with that, I'm going to turn it on over to Catherine, and then she'll start with the toast, and we'll dive on in.
All right, everyone. So I am in Hawaii today. So if my Wi-Fi sucks, sorry. I will not pull the curtain back and show you the palm trees behind me, unless you really want to see it later. But I'm going to goat yoga after this, so I'm not going to drink too much of this, but I have this lovely wild berry hard seltzer. And I would like to put a quote in for our toast. And my quote is, each time we learn something new and surprising, the astonishment comes with the realization that we were wrong before. And I picked this quote because a lot of nutritional myths is artfully telling clients that they are incorrect. So I think that's a really hard part of this communication piece. And hopefully we'll dive into that tonight. And cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Awesome.
So, all right.
You go, and then we'll jump
Okay.
in.
Okay, so everybody knows we encounter nutritional myths every day. Raw, grain-free, natural, GMOs, non-GMO, whatever you want to pick on a given day, you're probably hearing it like 6 times in a week. And it's one of those things that it's hard for everyone to talk about with clients, whether it's due to time or other challenges. There's a lot of different things that come up around this topic. So one piece I think that's really key is the communication, and we'll get into that later. I wanted to share an example of a nutritional myth that I encountered when I was in practice before joining Royal Canin, and I worked at a big referral hospital as a nutritionist. And you'd think working as a nutritionist, someone comes in to see the nutritionist, they're kind of prepared to talk about nutrition on maybe a different level, but maybe not, because this client came in and she was like, I'm not feeding a urinary diet to my pet, even though she has a urinary stone, because it's not natural or grain-free. And it's wrong to feed something that's not natural or grain-free. This dog it was a young female dog. She had recurrent UTIs. She had bladder sludge. She had lower urinary tract signs. So she was definitely clinical. She needed a urinary diet. She probably could benefit from a struvite dissolution diet because she had that sludge in her bladder, but the client absolutely refused to feed a urinary diet because it wasn't what she thought was right for her pet. And that brings up a lot of conflict, right? Because science tells me that providing a dissolution diet for a pet with clinical signs of struvite, urolithiasis, or crystalluria, that's going to be beneficial for the pet. And the client's logic is totally different than science, right? And that's going to say that she needs to feed what she's read on the internet or wherever she got her information is best. How many of you guys have encountered situations like this where you've recommended a veterinary therapeutic diet and the client, regardless of what, I want to hear these stories, I'm just going to finish my sentence, but regardless of what the scientific evidence states for that condition, the client will not feed that diet? What are some examples that you guys have seen?
So Leslie or Diane, you guys both raise your hand. If anyone else would turn on their camera, I could see if they were raising their hand as well. But yeah, Diane, jump in, Diane. Oh wait, I have to unmute. Oh, there you go. I just did it. There you go.
Yeah, I just, it's just interesting how much we're trained, we're scientists, we share what we think is evidence-based solutions for problems, but the clients have heard from the breeder or from the pet store, and once it's in their head, it's almost impossible to get them to accept what we're trying to tell them. And so I love the word navigating this challenge, because that's really what it is. You have to be so careful when you approach this, because if you're too strong in your approach, you're going to lose them. You have to find some way that you can bring them around to your side, but I find it can't be too aggressive an approach.
Right. And I think it's very emotional for some people. It's not just science, right? Does everybody agree with that?
Absolutely. Diets in general and buying diets is an emotional process. Always has been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leslie, did you have one? I know you're at work, so are you able to unmute and share, or? I can unmute you. I'll unmute. Oh, I can't. You have to do it. She's actually working right now. So, hey, this is what it's all about, isn't it? Come when you can. She may not be able to.
I was going to share something that's not about what you just said, Catherine, but an interesting kind of fun story is a cat that I just rescued. And the rescuer, the foster, shared with me that this cat had to eat a grain-free diet. And if he didn't, going to have really bad soft stools, really bad diarrhea. So thinking that I was at home, I would at least keep the diet the same until I got him used to me, and then I would gradually introduce the diet. I bought the grain-free diet, but his stools were so abnormal that I ran diagnostic tests, and of course he had Giardia and tritrichomonas.
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness.
So this, this had nothing to do with grain. But
this to do with diet at all.
That's just a good story of just how these things get passed along with and unfortunately problems don't get resolved.
Yeah.
So I will say, Leslie put in here about the raw diets, that she's had clients that are just so adamant that they have the raw diet. And said that their client insisted that their dog would not eat anything but chicken because she was so picky. But she had the dog eating within 3 days and watching it while the owner was away. But let's talk about that raw diet, is the myths associated with that.
Yeah, what do people hear clients say, and then how do you approach that conversation when it comes up? That's the hard part, right? The communication piece is way harder than the knowledge of what's right and what's wrong, or what's better and what's worse, I guess, because there's no true right or wrong if you really want to talk to clients. I found that myth busting is not the way to go. Telling them they're incorrect is not going to get you anywhere, right? So what have people found that works?
Oh, Mia's raising her hand. There she goes.
Okay.
Hey, yes. So for me, it's starting with empathizing. And I just had this 2 nights ago, actually, with my mother-in-law. And are you guys getting feedback?
No, now we're good. Now we're good.
Is it clear? Okay. So it was exactly what you're describing. They were feeding raw foods. And I just empathize. I understand you're wanting to do the right thing and you think you are, and your mind is in the right place. but let's talk about the facts. And so we just, had a conversation around that and moved it from the emotional side to, you're trying to do the right thing. Let's just get you on a slightly
Can
different
you help me for 1 second?
It's best for Scamp. And after repeating and repeating and repeating, it finally hit home. We'll see if it lasts, but they're on a regular diet now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the communication piece, even for family members, like you said, is maybe harder than even clients.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Any other that go for it, Jana?
Well, I teach a nutrition class to veterinary technicians that are sitting for the VTNE to get their, we teach them to get their 300 hours of educational requirements. And that's a question that comes up quite often because they're all working. They're non-licensed, but they're all working. And I not only do I tell them about a conference in Reno, the Western States, I went to an exotics conference and I spoke to 2 of the veterinarians that gave, well, there were 3, but I was able to talk to 2. And I asked both of them because they didn't really touch on raw diets, but I said, what is your stance on that? Because I have clients bombarding me and they're like, no, and then they gave all the reasons. But when I'm teaching the nutrition class that I teach, and I also teach, I teach 11 different subjects, but regardless, at one point in one of my lectures with my research, I found that 88% of all organic pasture-raised chicken has Campylobacter in it. So even the chicken we eat that's organic is still got Campylobacter in it. And they're feeding it raw. So, that translates to us. I mean, that's one of those bacteria that is passable. It's not zoonotic, but it's passable. You know what I mean? We can pick it up from the chicken and they can get it. And so again, the facts, the science, what is science? They can't, they can, but people, if you remind them of what the news says, I don't watch news, but I see it online about all the cases of salmonella every year and all the cases of E. coli poisoning, all from meat and raw meat and whatever. They start to think, oh, wait a minute, maybe this isn't such a good idea. And especially if they're young parents, then you use that angle. You, again, right, you emphasize, I know you want to do what's right for your pet, but you have young kids, so let's consider the whole family in this decision. And that will sway a lot of them, and I've never been a fan of raw diets. Having said that, though, I had outdoor cats, and I threw them my chicken skin. That was it. That's all I got. And they lived to be really, really old with good teeth. Now, whether it was from the chicken skin, who knows? It was probably just the dry food, but they ate science diet. But that's, you never know. But it's difficult to talk to people about raw diets. Some people get really on their high horse about it. I knew a lady downtown was selling it. She turned a whole part of her import store into a raw dog food and cat food thing. Nobody came to buy it, though.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Any feedback on raw diets? Because it's a hard topic. It's really a hard topic for, I know from a pet owner perspective that many pet owners, unless they're given that confidence of being able to talk to about it, they tend to hide that that's how they sometimes feed their pets as well. So that's very common.
Most people I know brag about it. I feed raw. I'm just the opposite.
It can be a liability issue for veterinarians to recommend a raw diet, and then what if it's a young parent, like you said, and their child gets salmonella from playing with the dog food bowl? And
that's what the vets at the conference said. That was one of the first things they mentioned was it's a liability for everybody.
It is, and if you don't document that you recommended against it in your medical record, it could be a potential liability.
Yeah.
Yeah, my vet never told me not to feed that.
Yeah.
You bet. In this litigious society that we have, you bet. Definitely.
So other topics besides raw, because that's a sensitive. What other kind of myths are we hearing, Catherine?
What about grain-free and derm? Have you guys heard that grain-free diets are the best for patients with skin disease?
Oh, of course.
all the
Has
time.
anyone done the math with the papers? So it's like, I love math, so sorry, I'm getting a little nerdy here, but like, if you consider that, I'm trying to remember, so out of all patients with skin disease seeing a dermatologist, it's like 10 to 15% have true food allergies. And then 5% of patients with food allergies or less have allergies to greens. So 5% of 10 to 15% of dogs with skin disease, which is, I don't know whatever percent of all dogs have allergies to grains, which is like less than 1% of dogs. And how many of your clients are saying that their dog's skin looks better when they get a grain-free diet? Have you guys heard that before?
I'm seeing a lot of shaking of heads.
Yeah. Anybody have any good stories about that? What you've heard from clients or anything?
You can jump in. If you've been muted, you can jump in.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Y'all have the stories.
Yeah. I saw everyone's head shaking. So
I had a good one. I had someone insist that her dog smelled better on a grain-free diet. That her skin was better and it smelled better. And I was like, yeah, that's not how we diagnose skin disease.
No.
It's like, I mean, I get you want your dog to smell better, but I don't know how to say I'm not buying that, but I was like, no, that was
Oh my God. That's so funny.
Yep, smelled better. That
It
was
was a yeast thing, probably.
I guess they felt like the dog smelled more yeasty on a regular diet, and it had to be because there was grain in the diet. And,
Oh, right. Yeah.
but I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
So she went from feeding Beneful to a good diet, but it wasn't because there wasn't grain in it. It was, forget the fact that it was better quality ingredients.
So Leslie put in here, not a client, but a friend of
But
hers.
did eventually get them quit, but
Yeah.
So Leslie had put in here, not a client, but a friend convinced her dog's seizures were caused by certain brand. And switching to, she couldn't remember if it was a raw or grain-free, but it magically caused the seizures to go away.
Oh, that's a new one for me.
Just gone.
I've never heard of that before. That's
It's
funny.
magic. It's all just magic. Not
That's
science.
awesome.
I inadvertently diagnosed a dog that was having seizures due to video games, but that's really not on topic. I was the only one who figured it out, though.
Oh my gosh.
Because every
No,
time the dog would go downstairs with the kids to play video games, it would have seizures. When it would stay upstairs, it wouldn't have them.
So I am curious because it sounds like it's been a big marketing ploy of because everywhere's the grain free. So, and I mean, obviously, Catherine, you're part of a bigger company with all the grain free. That's an interesting, it's been pushed pretty hard to cause consumers to think this way.
Yes. And I mean, my opinion as a nutritionist is that the nutrient profile of a diet matters more to me than what makes that nutrient profile, as long as the ingredients are bioavailable and digestible. But also, if you look at a nutrient profile of a grain-free diet and a nutrient profile of a diet that has grains, if they're, you know, my best example is Hill's Ideal Balance grain-free diets. They are almost identical to their regular diets containing grains. So if they're identical nutritionally, what's the benefit of having different ingredients? Right?
That's interesting.
Well, that's all marketing. You know it. Royal Canin does it too. Everybody does it.
Well, I mean, Royal Canin is mainly like a nutrient company. We don't really have grain-free diets, but we hear people all the time talking about, why don't you have a grain-free diet? And we're like, well, scientifically, it doesn't make a difference. And that's the reason behind it. It's maybe it's less trendy, but it's more scientifically
Right.
sound.
And speaking of trendy, if you guys have read the new articles about the possibility the FDA is finding between the grain-free and the increase in cardiomyopathy in these smaller dogs that have never been prone to it before.
Right.
First, they were calling it because of boutique diets. I remember when I was doing a coupon thing for Hills. I didn't work for Hills, but I worked for another company, and at the time they were promoting diets without corn, and that was the big thing. It gives them hot spots and it does this and that, and I had a book this thick on nutrition that had been one of my study guides. It's not a Hills book. It's like a non-denominational nutrition book. And I would keep it open to that area, and I would let them read about corn and wheat and grains in the dog's diets. But Dick Van Patten diets and weird, trendy little, like Rachel Ray and all these diets, that's what I call them fad diets, because that's what they are. These people don't know anything about nutrition. And I'm like you, Catherine. I'm a nutrient chaser, and I want the truth about what's in that food, not what the guaranteed analysis is, because that's BS. I want to know the truth, what's behind it. It's one of the things I teach my students, how to dissect any diet that they see and find out how much protein's really in it. It tells you the minimum, but how much is really appearing.
Yeah, typical analysis is much more informative, like from a product guide or calling the company versus what's on the bag or can.
Right.
So I would say, guys, we're starting to run out of time here. So I want to be sure that what are those other myths out there that we're really diving into to help make sure that we're adding some clarity on the conversation, because there are a lot of them out there. Obviously, grain-free, we've talked about the raw diets themselves, but what else are you seeing, Catherine, that these practices in general may be also seeing, or practitioners?
Well, I think one thing is probably natural. People wanting diets to be natural. And I think the funniest thing about natural diets is what a client thinks is natural does not match what the FDA or AAFCO define as natural. Yes. So the regulatory definition of natural is completely different than the consumer definition. So the consumer definition is probably stricter and varies between consumers. So how do you guys talk to clients about natural diets and who wants, what it means to them and how they want to feed a natural diet when they have a conflict, like that patient I mentioned earlier, when there is no diet that meets the health needs of that pet, but is also meeting their kind of mental, emotional need from what is logical to them from their internet perusing.
I'd love to hear from like Michelle or Amy, and I know Amy's exhausted. She's opening a brand new practice. I'm sure Amy's like, don't call on me, Catherine. I'm opening a brand new practice. And she's like, yes, and I'm drinking because of it. But let's hear from others there if it's, someone jumping in and giving us your voice on this, because I think this is really important.
Well, I hear from people like, oh, they put like chicken feed and chicken feathers and everything in the dog food. You hear that from people. I used to work with Purina, and I got to actually go tour the plants in St. Louis, and everybody was like, oh yeah, they put the feathers and the beaks and stuff, but no, that is so beyond truth. And I try to explain that to people. The one big thing people like to say all the time is, oh, it has byproducts in it, byproducts. I don't think they understand what all that really means. So I have to go into that a lot with people all the time.
Yeah.
They think byproducts, they think, oh, it's the feet and it's the feathers. And no, that's not what that is.
I think it's funny that people eat byproducts on a regular basis.
Yes.
And like when they eat pate or liver, that is a byproduct. Or my favorite is like, I'm not going to feed a diet that contains byproducts, but I give my animal tripe, which is, guess what? a byproduct. So they'll call out an individual byproduct and they're like, this is okay, but byproducts in general are not, even with the strict definition.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am going to just, if anyone needs to jump off right now, we're at the 25-minute mark, but we are going to continue on with the conversation. But I do think it's actually apropos, Catherine, I never disclosed that Catherine actually works with Royal Canin. So that is on me. And I do want to say that Royal Canin is a big sponsor of the Bridge Club. So it's actually appropriate, by which Leslie put in there that indicated, she says that she's been in arguments or has had arguments with regards that vets and the veterinary staff is biased because they are getting kickbacks from companies in order to be able to recommend. How do they kind of navigate that conversation, as I also made sure that I fully supported Royal Canin? It doesn't forget to mention.
So that's a hard one, you know, because most vets have a bunch of student debt, and we have, you know, technicians are not always the highest paid individuals. I'm just going to come out there and say it right now. And it's so ironic to me that people think we're getting money from other people when it's like so financially tight in the veterinary industry as a whole, like between everything going on. So, I mean, what I did when I was in practice, when people accused me of that, I'd be like, did you know that I have $80,000 of student loans that I graduated like 10 years ago, or whatever you want to say, just like be ironic about it. And like, I mean, those people, half the people that think that you're probably not going to change their mind, and there are a lot of people whose minds you can't change, but at the same time, that dog is very opinionated about this topic as well. At the same time, it's, even if you can't change people's minds, the best you can do is talk to them and tell them the truth and tell them what you believe. And if they don't believe that, or they don't want to believe that, that's their prerogative, right? We can't change everybody's mind. And I think the sooner we get over that the feeling that we want to change everybody's mind, the better off everybody is going to be, right? Mentally and professionally.
So this is where I will pick on Amy, because I do think that Amy has been really good about this, because she has represented other companies, et cetera. And I love the idea of being fully educated on all elements and be able to say, I can explain this, I can explain this, and this is why I recommend this one, because you know the other products. And I think that's the most important piece, right? Not to feel that you have to apologize, but demonstrate your knowledge. That's why you have the expertise that you have. And I've been witness to where Amy has done that. And so Amy is not my veterinarian, just for the record, but I'm a big Amy Pike fan. I'm a little bit of I'm fangirling on Amy Pike just a little bit today, but
just a little.
Practice, so we'll let that happen. But I do think that there's value in knowledge, and if you can express knowledge on why something might be better than something else, I think that pet owners, and I don't pretend to be a veterinarian, I am not one, let's really disclose that very clearly, but I love when I'm given knowledge from veterinarians. I think it's the most amazing thing. And if you can show me X, Y, and Z is not what is right, but you want me here, I'm there.
Hey, Catherine, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So did you see that, I guess, expose or whatever that was on the local news here in DC? I don't know where else it aired, but about the pesticides in the major companies. How do you respond to that? Because like I have clients that come to me and they're like, well, you know, Purina's the only one that responded to that thing. And here's a veterinarian, another, you know, one of our colleagues who is saying like, don't feed these diets. How do we navigate that piece?
That's another really hard one. You know, everybody has opinions. We can't always change their opinions immediately, but at the same time, I guess I'd go back to what kind of quality control companies are doing, how much they're investing into quality control. Because to me, quality, and there are kind of three things that I use to pick a pet food: is safety, nutritional value, and then is it appropriate or right for that pet? And safety is number one. That's where my raw diets get thrown out. That's where my diets that I don't believe in because they don't do quality control testing get thrown out. So if I really thought pet food was unsafe, I wouldn't recommend feeding it. And that's kind of where I go with that. Like, safety to me is absolutely number one. So if I didn't trust a company that I was recommending, I wouldn't recommend it, right? So that's ultimately the best thing to evaluate for a pet food. Safety, quality control, research and development. Are they testing their raw materials? Are they testing their finished product? Are they testing in between? Are they cleaning lines prior to producing a food allergy diet? Are they testing food allergy diets to see if they are produced in a way that has pure protein instead of contamination? Are they doing bacteriology testing to make sure the finished product doesn't have salmonella in it? Like, that kind of thing really is really important to me, because I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending a pet food that I didn't think was safe. So that's kind of where I start, if that helps.
Well, we're asked to push a little further. So Dana, are you asking like how to respond further on that? I mean, like really probing to say, so, you know, with what's recently what's happened, what should the veterinarian say? Are they supposed to go through, will they do all these scientific rigors, or what do you recommend?
Well, I was wondering from Catherine, like one of the arguments I see online a lot and I hear a lot is that, well, vets weren't given any nutrition education, so why should you take your vet's advice?
Yeah, I've heard that before. And I think, you know, I've heard statistics that clients actually do want veterinary advice from their or nutritional advice from their veterinarian, but at the same time, they're not always getting it when they want it. And I think that has kind of perpetuated that myth, because someone may ask for a very specific recommendation and get a more general one. So I think being very specific with your nutritional recommendations can help that when you make one. So instead of just saying feed a diet from a major company, like pick 2 or 3 companies or 2 companies that you like and trust and feel like the product is safe and appropriate and nutritional, and then stick to specific recommendations instead of making very general ones. And I think that does help a lot. Because I think I've heard that before as well, and I know that's not true, but at the same time, I think a lot of veterinarians are really, pun intended, hungry for nutritional education. So if you're interested in getting more nutritional education, that's possible. But at the same time, I think everybody has the background they need to make a specific nutritional recommendation. You just have to be specific, and I think that provides that element of trust. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, I think it's good advice, actually.
And because we all know it's not true that we don't have nutritional education, right? So you don't have to be a board certified nutritionist to be educated in nutrition. And there's a lot of opportunities at major conferences, online platforms. We're talking about nutrition right now in the Bridge Club, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. And if you feel uncomfortable making that recommendation, seek out more education. That's my best advice. But
so what I can also say is when we keep, it's funny, at some point during every single Bridge Club, the colleges get blamed for something.
Yes.
So
yeah.
What I can tell you, and I'm really, really excited, so not to pimp out another Bridge Club that's coming down the pathway, but we're actually going to be doing a State of the Union from the AAVMC. And they're going to talk about, so I'm really, really excited because they're going to kind of talk about, there's so many things that the colleges are being blamed for, that they're not preparing the students when they come out enough, et cetera. And I will tell you, I put the team through a rigmarole where I'm like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And they're going to answer all those questions. And they really, there's a lot of reasons why. that sometimes things haven't moved as fast as society has. So I not to totally promote another one coming, but this one's going to be amazing, as is all of our bridge clubs. But so any other major, like, you know me, I just love the bridge club. So any other major kind of questions for Catherine? Because I am looking at the time. We probably have maybe just a few more minutes. And that was great, Amy. So thank you for that. And I know you're exhausted. Yeah. So happy that you are here. That others have questions with regards to? This is your time. I mean, this is the gal. She's to my right. She's right. I mean, she's to my left. She's literally right here. So that's why I say that.
I am right there. Look,
I know, but she could be this to many people. She could be over here.
I'm right next to you on my computer. So it works.
I'm next to her on mine.
I mean, so my little hand gestures may mean nothing. It's all good. For those of you who are on the phone that cannot see your face, and hopefully, hopefully the next time you come to a bridge club, you turn on your camera, because we love seeing your beautiful faces. It does make all the difference. I swear to God. From the old movies. Any questions that you all might have, I want to be sure we're helping answer. The whole purpose here is it's outrageous what we hear, and we want you to share.
Or even how you communicate about these. They don't have to be outrageous. How do you communicate about these myths that you hear on a regular basis? Like, what's your best takeaway for talking with clients?
Or your go-to.
Or your go-to. Yeah, that's a better word.
I'll share. As far as my go-to, I learned a hard lesson, I think, in my relationships and for customers is I make assumptions that I know why they want to feed a certain way. Like when they say, oh, I have to have a natural diet, I assume it's because they don't want pesticides or it's dirty or something like that. And so jumping to assumptions and just assuming that I know why they want to feed raw, why they're looking for organic or they're afraid of corn. My biggest takeaway is to, kind of like we don't want to throw down with kibble, right? We don't want it to be a kibble gang war out there when we're trying to do consults, but we do need to empathize with them and say, I love your pet, you love your pet. Nobody's feeding a cat or dog a certain way to cause them any harm. And so I had to get into that mental headset kind of mindset. But then asking them, what does it mean to you? What's important to you by feeding a natural diet? I've come across when somebody said they want a natural diet, they wanted to make certain that the chickens are raised with respect because they saw a horrible video. Meanwhile, I'm talking to them that it can be cooked, it can be hydrolyzed, it can go through enzymolysis and still be natural. But she's talking about how those animals were raised with respect. So my biggest piece of advice is asking them, what does it mean to you, byproduct or corn, or, what scares you about gluten? So that you can answer apples to apples versus going down the rabbit holes that I do all the time and just jumping to an assumption. Now that I know, I do a lot better, but I still have to ask my husband if I'm doing better on that end, but nutritionally better.
So let me ask you, what do they say scares them about gluten?
It's the human market, right? Celiac disease, a lot of.
So that's what they're just automatically.
Yeah. Pet food trends in people pour over into pet food. So the gluten-free, organic came from people food in the 90s and started pouring into people food or pet food. And so we just, and then the whole, they were a wolf, but we need to feed them for who they are now, not who they were, hundreds and thousands of years ago. But really getting to that heart of don't assume, ask them for clarification before asking anything.
Yeah, being empathetic, I think, is probably the best advice I can give as well. Why does someone identify with a certain myth and trend, and what does that mean to them are awesome questions to ask, Bree. Thanks for adding that to the conversation.
So I want to make sure we are covering off on cats in particular, because I have two of my hugest cat lovers on the planet with us. And so I want to be sure, what do we need to be covering? See, aren't you proud? You got to both be proud of me. I'm like seeing both of you here and I'm like, we need to make sure. And so let's talk cats. Like, what are the biggest myths that we hear just in cats?
I think the two things I hear the most frequently is that number one, cats absolutely need all meat, high protein, which can be true for some of them, but not all of them. So like a weight loss diabetic cat, yes, I want higher levels of protein. But if like a renal cat, maybe not. So, I mean, that's one thing that I hear a lot. The other thing I hear the most with is canned food. Is the only thing you can feed cats. And I do think canned food is beneficial for some cats because they don't drink water and all that stuff, but it's not an absolute must for everyone, right? So making generalizations across all cats as opposed to treating them like individuals. What do you guys hear or have to say about those two things?
Yeah, come on, you little cat lovers. I want to hear it.
I see you, Alona. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
All right.
you out.
So what I hear mainly about the protein. They want Blue Buffalo, they want Origin, and all these other things that are all high protein. I don't think the owners want as much of the canned food as the veterinarians, and now they've read more about canned food. But I think cat practitioners definitely, and the obesity problem is so huge.
Yes.
That being able to feed some canned food, I don't feed all canned food myself, but at least feeding part of the diet as canned food makes it easier to allow that cat to have enough volume that they're not driving the owners crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. The generalizations are what bother me sometimes. Like they all need high protein, or they all need all canned food, or they all need this. Cats are just as individual as dogs are, if not more. You know, cats can be everything from sweet to sassy, and they are maybe both sometimes. I see some people had some cats in the background, so I know everybody agrees with me that cats are individuals just like dogs are. So why do we make generalizations about cats that we don't always make about dogs?
So I'd also love to hear from Diane too. So I'd love to hear from both of you because this is a big topic. We're going to do a big old cat week. I think before you guys come on, we're going to be doing a big old cat week. And
Awesome.
One of the things that I want to do, as we were mentioning before you all kind of dialed in, is I didn't know Freddie Mercury was a huge cat lover. Did not know this. So now I want to do like a montage video of all the cats. So I am a big cat person from the perspective of that was before I also fell in love with dogs. I fell in love with cats first. So I'd love to see, do you have any other comments there, Diane, so that we're making this a fair and balanced conversation?
Yes.
Well, I think that the same things we've heard that dog owners feel about how they go out of their way to get the very best food is the same thing our cat owners do, and they are just as vulnerable to all the myths when it comes to organic or grain-free, or the same concerns about byproducts or cornmeal as, the second ingredient. So I don't think cat owners are unique that way. They share that with dog owners. The carb thing is probably the biggest thing that Alona mentioned that I would agree with. That carbs just have gotten such a bad reputation in the feline world. And there are a number of fairly prominent people in veterinary medicine, board certified internists that tend to support that we should be feeding higher protein diets to help deal with the obesity issue we have in cats. So I guess I'd say carbs, like Alona said, is probably the thing I hear most, moving away from dry and moving more towards canned, towards the diet. But all those other myths that dog owners are vulnerable to believing, our cat owners are as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree there. And there was actually a recent paper, well, it's not super recent, it maybe came out 2 years ago or so, out of the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery that evaluated grain-free diets that for carbohydrate level, and they evaluated diets containing grains for carbohydrate levels. I don't know if anyone has seen this paper, but on average, the grain-free diets were a little lower in carbs, but the range was much bigger. So in the middle of the range was a little lower in terms of carbs than diets containing grains, but the range was like huge for grain-free diets. So I think there's a big myth, like you said, about that carbs are bad, but that doesn't make grain-free diets better or worse or anything. Like, to me, they're separate conversations, right? But I think a lot of people tie them together. I don't know if anybody else is
It's going to get worse. I have to be honest with you, because I think this is only the pro-protein is going to get worse, because I think you're going to have two dichotomies there. I think the pro-protein and then the idea of going like vegan, and that's going to be really big.
Yeah.
But I will say, because the keto diet now, I can go, and I am on the keto right now, so I'm just, for record's sake, I can go anywhere and people go, oh, you're on keto. I can tell you what you can have. So it's becoming so consumer focused that it's going to push out into our pets.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think it was Bree who said that earlier, the trends, or maybe someone else, I can't remember, the trends that we see in human nutrition absolutely spill over into animal nutrition and pet nutrition.
And it's the craziest thing that I've ever seen, because I always find it very funny, because then you can see, you know, the non-scientific brands become very focused on trying to change that behavior, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes your jobs a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So what was this? Oh no. Like, wait. I got
carbs and kibble make them
it out loud to you all, and I shouldn't have. So I do have to share this. So Bree just got hit by Buzz Lightyear by your son. What? My son?
Did I miss that?
Oh yeah, we totally all did. And I'm totally calling you out on it, because you know what? Here's the thing about the Bridge Club. And I mean this honestly, and I don't think people fully get it yet. So some boy just picked up my kid, and I had to mute myself. But I will tell you, and my dog lost her ever-loving mind. So yeah, I will tell you, I need to go back to Amy Pike and talk a little more about behavior. She's left us right now. But that's life. And that's what the Bridge Club is all about. Things happen. And so if your kid hits you with the Buzz Lightyear, I probably would have loved to have seen it.
I'm so glad it's recorded. So glad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't worry. I just think that's the way it's supposed to be. So I think that is one of the things, if I could give, the nutrition here is really important, but I think from a Bridge Club perspective, I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you are. I just want you to be a part of the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Jill has her beautiful dog in her lap the whole time. And Diane, I'm disappointed. Where's your cat?
There's Hawaii.
And she's in Hawaii. I've had people with babies in their arms. Oh, there's Amy. There she is. I was just talking about you. Yeah, we got to have another conversation about my dog, because it's not working.
Yeah, Amy's my go-to for my dogs too.
And so I'm like, you know, that's what I want people to understand. Oh, there she is. There, she, Diane? Is it he or she?
She's muted.
It's a he.
What's his name?
He's that guy that came with Tritric and Giardia. I just have him about a month.
Oh my gosh.
So cute.
That's a cute one.
Amazing.
That's a cute one. So I'm just saying the whole thing is, and it's important. So I love the fact you got hit with Buzz Lightyear. So Alona just said, the other thing I hear from nutritionists is, okay, I can't pronounce that word.
Cachexia. So yeah, that's a big topic as well. So does protein protect animals, especially cats, from losing muscle mass when they're sick, or does it harm their kidneys when they have kidney disease? It's a big myth as well, and I've definitely heard that too. I try to draw on the literature as much as possible, and we don't have a good study right now supporting high protein diets for chronic kidney disease, but I would, I just try to draw on what we have, which is restricting protein to a moderate degree for cats with kidney disease and being conservative with your restrictions. So don't restrict as much as you feel like, restrict as much as you need to. You know what I mean? So if you could get away with one of the early renal diets, like Senior Consult from Royal Canin, or Hills has early support, and then Purina has NF early stage or something. I can't remember all the exact names, but they're all designed for early chronic kidney disease. So if you have like a cat with IRIS stage 1 chronic kidney disease, recommendations are not to feed a renal diet, but to feed something that's maybe a little more moderate in phosphorus without the huge protein restriction. But when they need it, is my opinion. So, and that's what the literature suggests, but we just don't have as much information as we would like on it. But I definitely agree with you on that one.
So I want to be really conscious on time because I know I can see people getting sleepy. And
Yeah.
also someone has goat yoga. And
Yes.
let's be honest, goat yoga is taking priority here pretty quick. And so, which by the way, I really do want photos.
Okay.
Yoga.
Yoga photos will be coming.
I am so excited about
I'd
this.
like to see those too.
So I will, if
Yoga.
you send me a photo, I'll send it to this group. I think it'll be fantastic.
Awesome.
So with that said, any final questions? Because I want to be very conscious. We've kind of broken all the rules, but this has been a great topic, so I want to be sure.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are on the phone, totally get it. Next time, you'll turn on your camera so we can see you and your animals and the barking and the dates and the
Yeah.
and the, all that kind of stuff.
Only thing I'd like to add is that, you know, with any myth or anything else that we deal with, education is the key. And the more we're educated, you know, I mean, I kind of went overboard. I got 6 certificates in small animal nutrition, but it's what I loved, and I specialized in that in small animal dentistry when I was practicing. And the more you know, the easier it is to talk to people about it, and the better they understand you. Plus, because you know what you're talking about, or you hope you do anyway, you're more believable, so they're more likely to believe you and trust you. And that's the thing with, like I said earlier, buying cat food or dog food at the vets especially is a very emotional driven issue. And they're thinking, oh, there's something wrong, you know, with my dog. Like, let's say a dog has an intestinal problem and the vet says you need to get an intestinal diet before you leave, prescription, whatever. That upsets them. So you need to understand everything you sell on your shelves, whatever it is, and keep learning. If I was practicing today, I'd have a VTS behind my name. I'd be a nutritionist specialist, but I haven't been in practice.
So great.
I'll accept my certificates as that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were long courses I took. So, but that's the key. Everybody needs to be educated, and you know, if you're interested in it, there's so much out there that's free, even courses and all kinds of seminars and all that. So that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
So with that, a parting thought, Catherine, and then we're going to do a final little raise your glass.
Yeah, and I would just say, to build on what Jana said, don't myth bust, empathize. That's my parting words. Empathize and talk about the science behind it, but also connect with the client emotionally.
Absolutely.
I think that's so. Toast to that, everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Have
Cheers.
a great night. Oh, you know, every time you cheers, you're supposed to drink. If you don't drink,
Yeah.
even if you fake drink, you're supposed to drink.
Yes.
Everyone, thank you so much for coming to this. If this is something you want us to do again, shoot us a note. We are so grateful. And you guys, this is a record that we've had this many people in the after party. So I am beyond thrilled.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm so excited. If anyone is going to the AVMA and wants to know what the Bridge Club is up to, we have 2 amazing events. So the first is we are going to do at a speakeasy. So listen, if you're not sure if you're hanging around or not, we're doing at a speakeasy, and we're going to do old fashions. So version of that is on Saturday. On Monday, we're doing our traditional icon event, but this one's a little fancy. You have to actually we are having there's a dress attire required because it's at a club. It's a little intense. And so we are going to be honoring John Payne, and he is the president, chairman, and CEO of Compassion First, but he is also the chairman of the board for American Humane, and all ticket sales are going directly to American Humane. So we are raising money for American Humane. So if you are at the AVMA and you're going for your CE, I really hope that you can join us for these. These are great networking opportunities for everybody. Not to put the pitch out there, we get no money out of this. This is purely to move the profession forward. So with that, thank you, Catherine. Oh my gosh.
Everyone.
This has been awesome.
Y'all have fun at goat yoga, everyone.
All right, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you all later.
Thanks, everyone.
All
Thanks for
right.
listening, guys. Bye.